Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Inside FNATIC'S Brush. A non-streamed episode unfortunately had some issues with my streaming apps, so it will have to be a recorded version. Apologies about that one, but you will still be able to watch it through YouTube and Spotify, so I appreciate you guys taking the time to go on these channels and still follow my content. Um, let's talk about this week's subjects. We've just had week one of Summer Split start last week. A lot of surprise starts. Some teams doing way better than expected. Others, crumbling already within the first week. And obviously talk about our dear Fnatic and they're pretty decent, start back in form. I think we can definitely call it that, and go over a bit of some of their first games, how they perform, what we can expect going forward, and our predictions at the end. You guys did pretty well. Did some surprising predictions that I did not expect were gonna turn correct, and you guys nailed it. So we'll talk about that later. But just to jump right into our first subjects with the LEC. So, LEC, we go back to our old format with the top and the flop of the week. Current standings as they are is Mad Lions and Team Heretics undefeated yet. Fnatic and G2 share that second spot at 2-1. Then we have a massive group of teams at 1 and 2 with SK Gaming, Astralis, Koi, Team BDS, Team Vitality, and way at the bottom, 0 and 3 with Excel. Now, I think the one that really stands out here is Team Heretics. Now, I will be the first one to admit, I did not think that Team Heretics was going to be that crazy of a team coming into Summer Split. They did make some interesting changes, some upgrades, you could say, going from Ruby to VTO. I think you can only go up from there. And, Jack Spectra, Flacked, Jack Spectra having a very poor season made it that Flacked was definitely the better prospect in regards to those two players. So, while they were upgrades, I didn't necessarily think that they were going to be that crazy where, on their first week, they're already managing to beat everyone. But you guys actually predicted it quite correctly, to the fact that, they did beat SK, they did beat Astralis, and they beat Team Vitality. Now, a few things to put into perspective, right? As for these three teams, I'm going to start with SK and Astralis. SK and Astralis definitely not finding their form. I'd say almost more Astralis than SK. Astralis was looking somewhat strong at the end of spring after their rebuild, bringing in a leader. It was looking somewhat positive, but since they started this split, leader has even shared on social media that he was very frustrated. That was definitely not the level they were at, but they're not able to perform yet. So, you look at Astralis, you look at SK. Those are maybe not the most complicated teams for Team Heretics. Team Vitality, I would say, is maybe a different subject because not only did they end third after spring, but they also, stayed with those strong components. And on top of that, you're talking about a very bottom focused meta. So you would expect teams who have strong bot laners, strong ADCs, like Upset, for example, to maybe be one of those teams that stand out, are able to get to the top. Vitality just had a very very poor first week, and we'll talk about that later. But for Team Heretics, I still think it's a very, I'd say, a very good start for them in terms of showing what they're capable of, and showing the transformation they've gone through, and that they've definitely made the right choices. I was a bit afraid about Evi being the one that stands out in terms of all these players, but gotta admit he performed super well so far as well. So nothing much to say about Team Heretics here. I will add though that their games are still kind of 50-50. The way the free games panned out is that they get the early game, they throw the mid game, and they come back a bit later to win the game. So they still have that fragility in that mid game where there's this propensity to throw it, but they're still capable of bringing it back. I think FNATIC'S has been really the outstanding player for Team Heretics, and he's really brought like a strong lane within that team, to allow Yankos to to enable him a bit more, bring him more into that lane, and help FNATIC'S snowball, obviously. So yeah, not much to say about Team Heretics. Great first week, 3-0 start. We'll still need to see more from them still if they want to keep that performance, but it's getting a 3-0 start definitely helps them in qualifying for that next stage, as there will be going in against stronger opponents, I believe, next week. They're facing, well, not really. They're facing Excel tomorrow. They're facing Koi, and they're facing BDS. So could be a 2-1, maybe another 3-0 if they continue improving. But yeah, no, Team Heretics changes are coming through. Will play to them. Really quite impressive start. I definitely didn't have them at that level. I thought that some of the growing pains that they had before were continue within the team, but I guess they made the changes at the right places, and that's a 3-0 start to them. Congratulations. Next team, obviously, I want to talk about is Fnatic. Now, Fnatic didn't go 3-0, but had a very solid 2-1 week. Obviously, not going to go too much into the details as we have our Fnatic segment a bit later on, but what I do want to point out is that obviously compared to previous splits, they have a massive difference in the way this team plays. Bot lane being 10 times stronger, just it's just night and day. Here we have Noah, who's performing insanely well already. Even in the loss against G2, he was still pulling off some stuff, very very hard to kill, and knows how to play his champions to the millimeter, it feels like. His Aphelios is just not balanced, so I don't know how many more Aphelios game he'll get to play, but yeah, he's definitely a menace and pairs super well with Trimby. Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about Fnatic later, but just wanted to put them there amongst the top because I think they definitely deserve it. They've definitely, you know, changed their potential going into summer, and they're just super exciting to watch. Um, so you might be surprised why I did not include my alliance, and I really had to think a very very long time about whether or not I would add Mad Lions. The reason being is that, in my opinion, Mad Lions should be either 2-1 or even 1-2. Um, Mad Lions should have lost against G2 if Caps didn't feel like too quirky and special about his Nico pick and actually tried to, execute it properly instead of being like, oh, look, I'm a minion. Oh, look, I'm a pink ward. They'll never know. Because especially on the pink ward play, he doesn't really contribute to the pushing abilities of his team. He's just, standing there and just waiting. Broken Blade tries to bait the enemy team into him, instead gets killed by Karzi stun, which gives a 5v4 advantage. And then when Nico comes in, well, the follow-up really doesn't come around and basically makes it impossible for G2 to fight this properly. Instead, Mad Lions capitalize on this and use this first team fight to come back, get some Drakes, equalize in terms of Drakes, get in terms of souls. So, yeah. I mean, I guess you could put them in the top because they did manage to come back, but it feels like these comebacks were given and not necessarily acquired by Mad Lions. I mean, you could say the same about the game versus Koi. Koi, very good early game. They get the dragons, they get team fights, and then one point where Alyuya gets caught between tier 2 and tier 3 top lane. Mad Lions rush the Drake, and Koi start a 5v4 team fight, which starts super well until Aphelios exists and goes from 1 HP to full HP and destroys almost the entirety of Koi. So, twice I feel like they got bailed out by Karzi, who's, props to him, is playing super well, but their early game is way too dodgy for me to be like, oh, they're definitely a top, they're playing super well. I say that, and I did say that Team Heretics, through their games, but at least, they had the early game, they just misplayed, but they still managed to come back, so I feel that's still kind of more noticeable than teams that just, lose the early game hard, and then because the enemy team isn't able to close the game, manage to, get a good team fight and come back. And these, every time it comes from one player, it comes from Karzi, so yeah, a bit of an issue for Mad Lions. They probably, I could have probably included them in the top of the week, but for me, I don't know. It's just, I feel like if they're not able to fix this going into the next week, they're definitely gonna take a few losses. Going into the next games. Like it's good for them that they've actually managed to beat G2, like one of the bigger teams, on this split, because Caps kind of overcooked it, but will they be able to do this against other teams? Maybe. It feels like it's another very top heavy kind of split. A lot of teams are failing right now. I don't know if they have draft issues, synergy issues, meta read issues. Probably a lot of that across all the different teams, but yeah, it is, we do have that clear separation of 1-2s and 0-3s compared to like 3-0s to 1. With that said, actually, let's talk about the flops of the week. I could either start with Excel or Vitality, but since I put Vitality first, let's talk about them. Vitality, again, choking. Another expensive roster, another somewhat all-star roster, with a 1-2 start against opponents you would expect them to win against. Especially, again, considering the, what do you call it? The ending of Spring Split, where it finally looked that they were achieving their potential of, highly skilled, highly mechanical players, but they lost against Mad Lions. They lost against Koi, who doesn't look that great right now. They won against SK, but it wasn't necessarily the most convincing of games. If you look back, SK was kind of a bit ahead. Vitality was just playing the map a little bit better, but the team fights were definitely going into SK's favor. It just happened that the goal difference started to catch up to SK, and eventually what's her name, LeBlanc with Static happened, and that just makes her super oppressive if she goes into a side lane whatsoever. So yeah, then SK went for the Baron play. That was completely awful. Gave the game to Vitality to just allow them to snowball and have a 10k difference at 25 minutes. So that wasn't the most complicated for them at the end of the day. But yeah, not really impressed by Team Vitality. They should be performing 10 times better, in my opinion, considering the roster that they have. So yeah, definitely a flop. Not sure how they're going to perform next week. I believe they're facing G2. Yeah, tomorrow actually they're facing G2. So not expecting much from them. They managed to get a win from G2. That's impressive. Astralis hasn't been performing too well, and they face Fnatic on Monday. So actually a bit of a difficult week from them, going into this second week of Summer Split. Sorry. Next we have Excel. Not much surprises about Excel, to be honest. I think everyone ranked them the lowest because the changes that they made were not crazy. Abadage, as much of as a good player he is, then isn't able to carry his whole team. Oduamne, in my opinion, is having a shocker of a season altogether. I don't know where his head is right now. If he's kind of feeling depressed, or he's just not into it because Excel is just in shambles. But yeah, I feel bad for the guy. Peach hasn't shown really anything yet. I'm not seeing much within this team, to be honest. And I would say that if they lose against teams like Astralis and SK, I think they go 0-9, to be honest. I don't see this team improve. Like the morale, you can see the morale in this team is completely in the dumps. There's just I feel there's nothing to be acquired here. I think they just see out the rest of the season and then try to rebuild again, but actually have a rebuild that works because, man, starting the season with guys like Odowamne, VTO, and Targamas within your team, and Patrick and such, and just not being able to perform, shocker, dude, absolute shocker. There's it's you look at Excel play, and there's no team cohesion. It just feels like there's no communication at all. Like player A doesn't know what player B or player C is doing, and they get caught. Their not wave management, but their timings are completely off. Their team fighting is really poor. Like the only sort of silver lining was their game against Koi, and even then, when they had the lead, they didn't manage to capitalize on it, and they allowed Koi back into the game. So, if you're not able to get the freebies, then what else are you gonna get? And going forward, Excel's facing Team Heretics, who is looking on form. They're facing BDS, who, despite their wanting to, are still Team BDS at the end of the day. And they're facing Mad Lions. So we're potentially looking at another 0-3 right now, if we're being very honest. So yeah, Excel, they have to work harder right now. Not impressed, and they're kind of up to expectations, which is not performing. So yeah, not much to say about Excel, really. Very, very disappointing season. BDS. Now BDS, we have to put back into context that they are the finalists of Spring Split. So you would expect them to sort of snowball on their performances, on their progress, on their achievements. And, hasn't been too great for them. Hasn't been too great. First game was against G2, then Koi, then Astralis, and G2 game somewhat started well. Then the moment G2 had an advantage, it was over for BDS. Their game against Koi, it was fine, but we're used to seeing BDS much more dominant in game. And Koi actually had the early game. They got the first turret, they were getting gold, and then I just don't know how they got overwhelmed by Adam's Olaf. Like, they didn't respect, like they forgot that Olaf cannot be CC'd, and from that point onward, it was over. So yeah, very disappointing from Koi to not capitalize, but it's again the same things. Is that BDS gets away with those pocket picks, with those cheese picks, and it's like, if Adam isn't on his Olaf or on his Darius, then game suddenly becomes way more complicated. But if you allow Adam to just run mindlessly at the opponent and heal and that's it, then good job, And happens that Olaf plays super well into Cassante, and Cassante is the flavor of the month. So again, it plays well into his hand. But with that said, you look at their other game against Astralis, who again were 0-2 coming into this. You're like, oh, surely BDS, gets the game, right? Nope. Astralis, within the first 5 minutes of the game already like 4-0 up, 3k gold roughly ahead. It's like, wait, am I seeing this correctly? Like they're being just outskilled by Astralis. Like there's nothing crazy going on. Like within the first 6 minutes, like come on. But it's just a massive diff. And at no point does BDS show signs of life. It's like from that moment onward, Astralis just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. Around the mid game, Astralis already ahead like 5 or 6k, and yeah, I mean, the number of times BDS is caught out of position, gets yoinked by Younghoon's Blitzcrank. It's, before 25 minutes, there's already a 10k difference gold. Like full Drake Sword and everything. The way Astralis has been playing so far, you cannot expect them to be that dominant against a team like BDS. And yet, BDS got absolutely rolled over. So, not too sure what's happening with BDS, because with BDS, for me, it's a bit like the case of Astralis. It's like another team that has a very strong bot lane. Would expect them to do much better, especially Crowny, who's known to be like a good, fearless player and things like this. So you'd be like, wow, that's absolutely in their wheelhouse. And I don't know, they've just been very absent. So going into this week, they're facing SK, XL, and Team Heretics. I think we'll be looking at BDS Team Heretics to see what they're worth, because BDS XL, they should win this. BDS SK, I think this still goes into BDS favor, but I think actually this might also be interesting to watch. Because if BDS lose this, then I think the BDS of Spring Split Finals is just gone. And it was just a one-time thing, so it would be a bit disappointing, but we'll see. But yeah, not much to say about this. I think we've gone into details about the most interesting teams here of week 1. Now we're going into the most interesting team, which is Fnatic, with a very strong 2-1 start, I believe. Yep. Boom. There we go. Now, how should I start this? Well, I think there's a lot of reasons to be very happy of the 2-1 start, other than we're finally winning games within the first week. But I'll start with the most obvious one, which is Noah's performance across the 3 games. Absolutely stellar. His Aphelios is actually a weapon of mass destruction. This guy is just not scared. He just walks up. He deals more damage than any Aphelios I've seen before, and his micro is so precise. Like the number of times where he dodges an engage, he dodges a Rakan knockup by just stepping outside just enough and go back in, like no need of a flash whatsoever. That is unique. That is unique, and that's what makes him special, in my opinion. Other than the fact that he puts like 20 to 30 CS difference to his opponent during laning phase. Other than that, he's doing super well. First the stage game where you would expect, a rookie, and especially a Korean player, very young Korean player, to maybe be a bit anxious, be a bit stressed of this new environment. You'd feel like he was there from the start. The pairing with Trimby works super well to Trimby's game on Thresh. Oh my god. just hits all the hooks, hits all the hooks imaginable. The first blood was well played as well. Just everything everything from this bot lane is amazing. You know, both the Astralis XL game, the G2 game was a bit more difficult to play for the bot lane. Aphelios, Melio, which probably one of the strongest bot lane duos you can have. Um, Unfortunately lost with the first blood, but apart from that, just super impressed by Noah. If we take a bit more the games in order, we'll look at the Fnatic Astralis game. I think some of the great signs of this game is that we started seeing finally a bit more of that jungle mid synergy that we've been craving for since last year. And there was a bit of a dodgy first gank in a bot lane where Razork just stayed bot lane for so long. It felt like he needs to get back, but they wanted to put that bot lane ahead, and they managed to get the gank. So they managed to make something out of it. Then transitioned into mid lane gank, and well, first of all, we had the humanoid static shiv tech, which I think completely overthrew Astralis, and especially Leader, who couldn't do anything because, well, once the item is completed, it's one auto attack and the wave's already completely cleared, which really, empowers LeBlanc, who isn't necessarily the biggest or the best at wave clearing. But when you add this, I mean, she auto attacks once, dashes into the minion stack, that's the wave clear. Awesome. Great gameplay from Riot Games again. But yeah, overall this game was very well played. Oscarinin managed his lane, had some amazing engages on Cassante. Really happy of his performance so far as well. Just Astralis game was a great way to start the week. The draft, was very decent as well. Going into the XL game, we kind of made it a bit more difficult on ourselves to play the game because we didn't have any clear engages. It was basically having Razork face check a brush, and before he gets annihilated, press R on the Kindred so he doesn't die and allow his team to follow up. I think this game was definitely Noah's game on that one. Especially at one point where around FNATIC'S Raptors, Razork jumps the pit to avoid the Zeri Zap and isolates himself in a sort of little corridor here, gets caught, hits the Kindred ult to stall for a bit and allow Noah to join him, and then Noah just obliterates everyone after Razork and Humanoid dies, and thank God for that, because that could have maybe allowed Excel back into the game. But just the fact that Noah was so far ahead and just dealing so much damage already, plus he has the Yumi on top of him, absolutely lethal. Noah had an amazing game despite a bit of a dodgy draft. He was aggressive. He flashed into the enemy team. He gale forced and everything. His damage ratios are absolutely insane in that game, especially. I think he has. Actually, I need to check again because I saw them last week, but I don't want to say anything that's wrong. But I believe it's like something like 10k, damage diff compared to the second person on his team. It's not giving me exactly what I want here. But if we go by damage distribution, basically it goes Razork is 22%, humanoid is 20% and he is 35%. So in terms of GPM, that's 678 for Razork, 612 for humanoid, and 1,068 for Noah. Who is this guy? It's it's almost more. It's almost double than what Patrick did. What the hell? Absolutely mental. 11, 0, and 5. This kid is. If you don't get excited for him, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing. Um, he's just so incredible. He's just so incredible. I love watching him play. It's very, very exciting. But yeah, very happy that we won Astralis and Excel. Crucial points to get to qualify to the next stage. The G2 game. I've heard people say a bunch of stuff about what went wrong. A lot of people accusing the draft. Now, I will say that draft wasn't the best, for sure. With that said, obviously giving Gefilios, Emilio, Casante as well. Like they got a lot of very strong picks. But I do believe that if the early game was executed much better, we wouldn't be necessarily talking much about the draft. Because if we actually look at the game, if we actually open our eyes and we look at the game, bot lane had an advantage until the 2v2 loss. I mean, until Hansama got the kill on Trimby. Otherwise, we had the advantage. We managed to isolate the bot lane from their wave and get Noah ahead and have them, lose a few minions. Then same thing mid lane, they try for a gank on Caps. Almost gets a kill, but Caps gets brought so low that he can't stay at the turret. Gives Humanoid more space again. And we sort of, I don't know if it's an overgang, but we overplay our hand kinda and try to, catch the bot lane, try to make something happen. Spells are not hitting, executions are not executing. And at that moment, because of the TP from Humanoid into the bot lane, Caps has a free mid lane, G2 has Herald, Yike is around, and all that advantage gain, at least for the mid lane, completely thrown out the window. Caps is allowed back into the game, and from that point onward, the scaling from G2 is just too strong. And that's really what it boils down to, beyond the draft, is that if you got the kill on Ari, and if that bot lane TP gank had worked out, it would have been great. Noah would have been ahead. We would have had objective control and map control, and it would have just been a job of snowballing that advantage, just pressuring, and not allowing G2 to really scale and get to those points into the game where they're able to fight back. So get the early drakes and everything. Fortunately, that didn't happen. Small blunder. Game got out of hand. It's nothing too crazy. You can say maybe G2 stomped us whatsoever. I mean, yeah, obviously, because we didn't execute properly. It's not G2 doing great things and they're the ones executing. We just mis-executed and we gave them that window to basically scale freely. So that G2 game, I'm not even concerned. It sucks to lose against G2 for sure, but I'm not even really concerned about it. I think it's absolutely fine. Um, Easily fixable on how we execute these types of early game drafts. Um, it didn't work out this time. Happens, really happens. But even in that game, Noah died. Oh no, he's not unkilled anymore. But Noah did super well. Like he's still able to get some kills, deal damage, be within that 1 millimeter between dying and dealing damage. So you know again, there's nothing crazy about it, nothing too crazy about it. Still top damage within his team. Absolutely fine, absolutely fine. He almost dealt like 40% of his team damage in that game. Mental. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Um, he ends the game 3-1 and 4. He's he participates in 7 of the 8 kills from Fnatic. 173 CS despite being behind and pushed around. I think that's absolutely fine. It sucks, but yeah, that's fine by me. That's absolutely fine by me. Yeah. Otherwise, I think Fnatic super impressive. I think they will continue to do really well going forward. If they just clean these little execution parts, but they seem to be on the same page when it comes to executing strats, playing one side of the map, and when you have a bot lane that's, we're really lucky to have this plug and play bot lane where we brought in Noah and Trimby, and from what's being said from Life of Legends and things like this, or Legends in Action, sorry. They just got together along very well. The vibe within the team sounds amazing. Everyone is getting along super well, and Noah is taking English lessons. He's super funny. I'm very happy about this team. I'm just very happy. It makes me very hopeful, and I think we're definitely looking at a group stage qualification, and I think we can easily make it to playoffs. There's no reason we shouldn't. But yeah, that said, I just moved straight into predictions. Usually I like to do a little transition, but I don't know, I just clicked it straight away. But yeah, just what I wanted to say is that you guys had great predictions on Team Heretics. You saw something that I didn't see, and you got it right. So well played. You managed to catch up at 1 point away from me, so good job. But for these predictions, there's not much to say. I don't think we're gonna get some crazy surprises. Especially looking at this first day, BDS SK. BDS should win. Team Heretics excel. Team Heretics sitting kind of clear. Fnatic Koi. I don't think it should be close. Koi hasn't been looking great. It'll be a funny game because it'll be Adyen versus Fnatic. So obviously Trimby versus Koi. So we'll have a bit of a crossover here. Vitality G2. Unless Vitality suddenly fix their issues, G2 is absolutely gonna roll over them. Astralis Mad Lions. Anything could happen actually on this game. If Astralis has the same early game as they had against BDS, who knows? Astralis could win. On day 2, looking at the games. Actually, this one might go different directions. Apart from the first game, BDS excel. Astralis Vitality, Astralis could win. It's not too crazy, but Vitality should win. Team Heretics versus Koi. If Team Heretics continue their form, should be a win for them. But if Koi improve, why not? G2 versus SK should be G2. Fnatic versus Man, I think will be a very close game. But if Fnatic continue having the same early games, there's no reason why they shouldn't be winning here. Going into the last day, BDS versus Team Heretics. You guys love Team Heretics, so you voted for them. You might be right on that one, but I still think BDS might take it. Mad versus Excel. Okay, versus 4 Mad. G2 versus Australia should be a G2 game. Koi versus SK. Still think it should be Koi. Fnatic versus Vitality. Again, if Vitality keeps shitting the bed, no reason why Fnatic shouldn't take this game. So, yeah, I think there's massive potential for Fnatic to take a 3-0 week here. It's, you know, it's not out of consideration that they win their 3 games very cleanly. If they VOD review properly, they prepare well, and they see the flaws, especially in Mad Lions' early game, wouldn't be too crazy. I think at least 2-1, 3-0, obviously best case scenario. But I don't think it's crazy to say that Fnatic can 3-0 when you consider their performance. So yeah, that'll be it for today's podcast, guys. As usual, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to follow me on all the socials, on the Twitter, on the YouTube, and on Spotify to make sure you stay informed of everything that's happening with Fnatic. Guys, again, apologies for the lack of live stream. Just wanted to give quick thank yous for those who didn't notice. We've hit 100 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much. Might sound like a small milestone, but for me, it's one step of what I'm trying to achieve with this podcast. So appreciate you guys following, subscribing, supporting everything. Wearing the Valorant jersey, the Sumire, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, jersey. I don't know if you will be watching the Valorant finals, but potentially we have another world title for Valorant this year, which would be amazing. This team deserves it. They're crushing it. They're the best. And we need to fill up that trophy case. So, maybe see you on Sunday on the viewing party. Until then, guys, thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend. And as usual, always Fnatic. Bye-bye.